Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
Well, gather round, folks. Let me tell you a tale about some so-called Republicans who always derail. They talk real tough on Fox at night, then cross the aisle faster than a thief in the night. Oh, RINO, swamp approved, selling out fast with their DC moves, waving their flag like they're red, white, and true, then voting with Schumer. Yeah, that's what they do. Liz Cheney rode in with the J6 crew, talking about Trump like she's working for Blue. Mitch McConnell's smiling, but don't be deceived, cause he votes like he's got a big D up his sleeve. Oh, RINO, swamp approved, selling out fast with their DC moves, waving their flag like they're red, white, and true, then locking arms with Pelosi. Yeah, that's what they do. Dan Crenshaw, oh man, what a sight. Talks like a Texan, but votes like right ain't right. Sends billions abroad with a wink and a grin, but when the border comes up, he's gone with the wind. Oh, RINO, swamp approved, selling out fast with their DC moves, waving their flag like they're red, white, and true, then saddling up with Bernie. Yeah, that's what they do. They strut like cowboys, hats tipped just right, but vote like they're dancing left every night. Infrastructure spending, Ukraine cash too. Guess who's footing the bill? Yeah, that's me and you. RINO, swamp approved, selling out fast with their DC moves, waving their flag like they're red, white, and true, then kissing Obama's ring. Yeah, that's what they do. RINO, swamp approved, selling out fast with their DC moves, waving their flag like they're red, white, and true, then voting with Schumer. Yeah, that's what they do. So next time they ask for your vote or a dime, remember their record. Don't fall for their line.
Welcome back to True Thursday, folks. The Rob Maness Show is live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. Well, the RINO removal project is taking aim in 2026, my friends. And the RINO removal project is a national grassroots movement dedicated to restoring the Republican Party's conservative America First roots. They're focusing on identifying, exposing, and removing Republicans in name only, RINOs. Those are the career politicians who campaign as conservatives and then vote like Democrats. Through strategic media, state-level monitoring, and coordinated primary challenges, they will empower voters to hold these so-called representatives accountable. Well, RRP is a battle plan. They're going to unite voters and influencers and really get on top of it. And candidates that they're going to support will replace the establishment with bold, unapologetic leaders who champion secure borders, fiscal responsibility, election integrity, and traditional American values like not getting involved in every regime change war that comes along. RRP CEO Leo the Lion said, and I quote, "Under our operational structure, the RRP can engage in political activities such as funding independent political ads and supporting primary candidates." That's important. In alignment with our purpose and in compliance with applicable campaign laws. Close quote. Well, if you're fed up with betrayal from within, you're not alone. This movement, it's built for you. My guest today is Steve Darwin. Steve is a United States Army veteran of 8 years, Purple Heart recipient, 2 combat deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq. He's a content creator. He's a podcaster of the show, wait for it, Cowboys and Indians. I love it. It's part of the Patriot Prayer Network. And he's president of the RINO Removal Project. Steve was doxxed and swatted a few months back and once mass reported on X, resulting in temporary demonetization. Welcome to the club, sir. Steve, welcome to the Rob Maness Show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Colonel.
It's a great song. I pulled that off of you guys' website.
Yes.
And I appreciate you coming on. And I've been showing your target list. And we're going to call it a target list. And if you want to yell at me, people out there, you liberals, for using the word target, we are targeting these rhinos. I've been after one of them for over a decade, as a matter of fact, to try to keep him from becoming a U.S. senator in the first place, man. So I guess my first question, Steve, is why on earth did you volunteer to be president of this organization? This is a big fight.
Absolutely. And, you know, being prior service, I dedicated my life of 8 years to the United States Army. As you stated before, I did 2 combat tours, once in Afghanistan and once in Iraq. Probably the proudest moment of my life was serving my country. And what better way to serve my country again by joining an organization that wants to hold America First principles or hold our politicians accountable, because we've seen this time and time again with voting records and other representatives of our nation that aren't actually representing the power or we the people. And that's a gigantic issue. And we can go into more details about voting record and how much money we sent overseas to Ukraine for the military industrial complex under the Biden regime. And nothing was really done to kind of stop this. And our borders were unsecured and millions of people have crossed into our country. And we're trying to remedy that. But we are seeing a lot of issues within Congress, which, as we know, the legislative branch of our country, Congress and SCOTUS, they wield the most power within our country.
Yeah, they do. So let's dive into some of the detail here. I took a lot of what of my opening monologue, some of it from the website, the RINO Removal Project. Tell folks what that website is here when you answer this question. So let's dive into the actual objectives. What do you aim to achieve in the 2026 primaries specifically? And then we'll talk about how you're going to do it.
Okay, so specifically for the 2026 election, or the primaries, is to find valuable candidates to actually primary the people that are on our target list. And at the end of the day, that is the most difficult thing, to find people that actually are willing to join in and actually primary some of these candidates. So we have some really good candidates throughout the country, specifically in Louisiana, to take out Cassidy, and in South Carolina for Lindsey Graham. But I guess the way we want to do this is the RINO Removal Project has a vetting program, and this is the initial phase of it. If someone wants to partner with RRP, there is a vetting process, because we don't want anybody that we associate with to potentially be what we're fighting against. So there's a huge questionnaire, and we run through it through the president, the CEO, Leo, and then myself, and the entire executive team reviews the documentation before we even bring them on to the next part of the process.
Yeah. So what is the methodology you're using to identify the right candidates?
Well, it's specifically laid out in our vetting process, and in my opinion, for in layman's terms, it's pretty much completely opposite of what these rhinos are doing. So on our website, you can go there, and there's a metric called Rhino Scores. So it uses proprietary information, their voting record, and the different metrics. You guys can look through it, and it has a scoring system. And now we not only put Republicans on there, but also Democrats, prior and current. So it gives everybody a very legitimate idea on how these people rank versus the ones that could be potentially primaried versus like someone like Nancy Pelosi. Or it's a different weighted scoring system. So I encourage everyone to check it out.
Yeah, is your priority target list on your website somewhere where you by
Absolutely.
name lay out who you're targeting so far and all that? And what's the process for a rhino getting on your priority target list? How does that happen?
Well, so it is based on the proprietary scoring system. So their voting record, and everybody. So let's kind of discuss with a rhino what a rhino is. And I think the issue that we're having in this country right now is voter education. So I want to ask you, Colonel. I know you're supposed to be asking me questions, but go out to a supermarket and ask, say, potentially that person, they're a registered Republican, and ask them what a rhino is. What do you think their answer is going to be?
It'll be all over the place.
A large animal in Africa, correct?
Because if you ask somebody in Texas what a rhino is, I bet you $20 that they won't. Majority of them will not say John Cornyn's a rhino. That's why he keeps getting reelected.
Absolutely.
If you ask my neighbor who lives a couple blocks from me, who puts an incumbent Republican sign in his yard every single time, no matter how quality the challengers are, he's not going to answer what he knows what a rhino is.
Right, exactly.
That's part of the problem, right?
Absolutely. So voter education and turnout is another issue that we have throughout the country. So especially in midterms. So I guess to answer your question, we do have a system where we do vet these potential candidates, and it is rigorous. We're not going to allow just any Joe Blow to come in and try to get vetted through or complete the process of the vetting through the RRP.
That's very important because the more people know, the more they'll see through to things that don't exactly tell them the truth. How does your scoring stand up to? And this is one of the frustrations I've had since I entered politics is, when I and we're going to talk about this guy when I faced my first Republican candidate opponent in my very first U.S. Senate race. The American Conservative Union was giving him a 90% A rating. And I knew better. But the ACU, I mean, that's the folks that run CPAC.
Right.
So how does your scoring system stand up to actually getting the truth out as opposed to theirs?
Well, like I stated before, it does run based on their voting record. So it really, at the end of the day, it depends who is running these vetting systems or the scoring systems and where the money is. So anything it can. So we're independent. We don't get backed by any of these gigantic organizations. We are just true America First patriots. And we look at people's voting records and what they're spending money on and what are their border policies and how much money are they worth. That's another problem that we have in this country, where we have these representatives that are having that have a salary of $174,000 a year, but they're worth tens, hundreds of millions of dollars. How can these people represent their own constituents within their organization or their district if they're multimillionaires? Especially especially if the median salary is $40,000 or $50,000. it's impossible to understand what
Yeah.
these people are going through.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, we got to take a commercial break, Steve, but when we come back, we're gonna spend the rest of the show talking about your top 3 targets that are already on your list of rhinos. And first up will be our buddy John Cornyn, Texas. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Would you like to gain access to over 20 years of my radio shows, TV shows, my books? I've written 15 books, and most of those books are ebooks now. And we have conference DVDs, conferences where we filmed our conferences at the Ozarks, literally starting 20 years ago. It's all available in our archived vault. All you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and for a reasonable monthly fee, you gain access to over 20 years of Christian worldview programming, news, information, books, documentaries, and a powerful search engine. And folks, it's a great way not only to educate yourself, equip yourself, but it's a big way that you can help fund our continuation as a broadcast network. Please check it out. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and help us continue pushing out a Christian worldview.
I went down and gave talks in Denton County and Tarrant County. It's been incredible down there, the level of enthusiasm. And now you're going to have probably for 26 for this cycle, the most intense. Although Michigan may be teeing up to be that, the most intense will be Texas. And Cornyn was right. This is going to be over $100 million fight. But Cornyn, to me, is as bad as they get. I mean, he's just a McConnell-Bush acolyte. He tries to fake it sometimes to make sure people, can say he's a conservative. I just don't see it. Not just a moderate. He's a globalist and always have supported the deep state. Ken Paxton's a good man, but that's going to be a tough one.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Truth Thursday, and we're going to tell the truth today like we do every Thursday and every day of the show, really. And my guest today is the president of the RINO Removal Project, Steve Darbin, Army veteran, combat veteran, the combat deployment in Afghanistan and Iraq in just an 8-year career, by the way, in the United States Army, but has dedicated himself to something that I've been working on for over a decade, starting with my very first political race, and that's eliminating rhinos from being able to hold public office in the name of Republicans, especially in states where they're called ruby red, like the state of Texas. What's wrong with John Cornyn, man? Come on.
How much time do you have? Yeah, John Cornyn is on our target list right now. And if you guys go to the website, he has a RINO scores of 45. His heritage score is a 35, Liberty score 54, and Vote Smart 49. So what this tells me is he's kind of right in the middle as far as being loyal to the swamp or his constituents. And yeah, you can see that on your screen right now. The issue that we have with a lot of these rhinos, and I've noticed this over the past, I guess, 10 years that I've really gotten myself involved into politics, is that a lot of these individuals, these rhinos, what they'll do is they'll play with their own agenda for the first portion of their candidacy or their representation of their constituents. And then what they do towards the end of it is they will start voting more and more America first. And this is the problem that we're trying to solve with voter education, is because some people do have a relatively short memory. So towards the end, when it's coming up to primary season, you'll notice these candidates are starting to be either pro-Trump or pro-America, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of people forget their voting record in the past and what they have done throughout the entire portion of their candidacy, or their representation, their constituents, or lack of it, for better terms.
Oh, absolutely. Is he running his I voted with Trump 99% of the time ads yet?
Not yet. I'm sure it's right around the corner.
What does the lay of the land look like in Texas? Do we really have a real? The question I get very often from folks that I'm trying to recruit to help us in these efforts is, yeah, but he's an incumbent. He's going to have millions of dollars. We know that. Very hard to take him down. Do we have a candidate that we think is viable, that can raise enough money, et cetera? Because they're very hesitant to waste their time. What is
Absolutely.
it looking like?
For John Cornyn, Ken Paxton is, in my opinion, I feel that he is going to give a gigantic fight to John Cornyn. Recent polling shows him way ahead of John Cornyn right now. So I do feel there is some frustration within with Texans as far as the RINOism. But I also do want to point out that we're talking about Texas now, right? But a rhino is a rhino, no matter where they are. It could be a Don Bacon or a Dan Crenshaw, depending on like the federal level. So every rhino throughout this country affects you, sort of like every illegal throughout this country affects you. Because if we do not get all of these illegals out, then we still have issues abroad. So we need to fix the entirety of the rhino movement, I guess, if you want to call it that, or the deep state or the globalist effort. So John Cornyn is especially important in Texas, but it should be important to somebody that's in South Carolina or in New York or in Nevada, especially if you're a Republican.
Well, yeah, because just like they're debating the one big beautiful bill right now in the U.S. Senate, and some of the things we're hearing coming out of the Senate is that the rhinos are trying to take the Green New Deal scam markups that the House put in that removes it and ends that stuff and put it back in for their corporate cronies in the windmill and solar business and those kind of things. I mean, that's just one example, right?
Absolutely, and there's just so many examples, but this is more recent. And it is a gigantic issue. And even President Trump is really against the Green New scam. So, sorry, my internet's kind of breaking up.
That's okay. I still hear you.
So, yes. So that's just one recent example of what these rhinos or what these people, they are self-serving, and these NGOs and these lobbyists that are backing these people. That's another issue that we're having within this country. Who is actually running these districts? Is it the actual candidate, or is it these people behind the scenes that are giving money to cut deals behind closed doors? And that's what we have experienced for decades now.
Yeah, and you guys have looked specifically at Cornyn, I'm sure. So what are some of the specific, really egregious stuff that he does? Because, we got to identify that stuff and get the people educated about it, right? Because he's going to say, all of his ads are going to say, I'm with Donald Trump. I'm with Donald Trump, because he knows that most of the time he's really not, and he's got to convince people by lying to him.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so it's plain and simple. It's who he votes for and what agenda does he back. So Ukraine and all these other issues that have been floated around in the past. There's just a few examples. But I also do want to speak out and state that we do also have state chapter leads within Rhino Removal Project. So for Texas, we have one. We just acquired one for Mississippi. We have South Carolina, Alaska, with their voting issues over there. So what the great thing about Rhino Removal Project is we have an entire team, and we have specific people that focus on individual areas. So, for example, Texas handles Texas, Alaska, right? And then we also have state surveillance program where we have people that are actually embedded or discussing with these state legislators and understanding the nuances, but in each individual state, and they're actually pulling data and they're investigating these people and adding ammunition. So whenever we do have a potential candidate that does want to primary a rhino, they are there and they're willing and they have the ammunition behind it. So, and it's almost full circle with the voter education piece. So it's really difficult to take down a candidate if you don't have the ammunition behind it. And you were kind of discussing earlier a little bit about the war chest a lot of these people have. So like a Lindsey Graham, I don't even know how large his war chest is. I'm sure it's pretty much unlimited. So what we have to understand is it is going to take money to take down the deep state, right? But also you have to have the ammunition behind it, and that's what these state coordinators and these state chapter leads. That's their essential function within the RRP.
So how do folks get a hold of the state chapter leads to see how they can help?
So if they would like to assist the rhino removal project.
Yep.
So you can go to rhinoremovalproject.org, and there's a link that says sign up, and it's a Google form that you'll fill out your information, and the information is held within RRP. So we have a very secure website, and you go in and you fill out demographic information and then what you can bring to the table. We also do have obviously a donate or a contribute button, and we do have strategic partners within the rhino removal project. So it's almost like a win-win, because we do understand we all have to work together as one team to bring down these rhinos. It's almost like our own revolution within our own party. So the Democrats, they're not going to hold themselves accountable at all. And they stick together. You've noticed, we know this, that they will vote blue all the way down no matter what. So what we need to do is hold our own party accountable. And that's what's been lacking for a very long time.
Yeah, it is. Since we're talking about Texas right now, I know, and I'm guessing that probably most voters, even in Texas, don't realize this, but the state houses are controlled by Republicans, but the House of Representatives over there, while it has a Republican speaker, they're always a center-left type person, and they actually pick Democrats to be committee chairs and those kind of things, which is not an uncommon problem in southern states. We have the same problem here in Mississippi, where the person controlling the Senate picks all the committee chairs and tends to, even though the Democrats don't have even close to a majority in the Senate, they get committee chairs because we have rhinos that are in charge and have the power to do that. Are you guys looking at the state houses as part of your targeting package, either before or after the 2026 election?
Oh, absolutely. So there is a rhino problem on the federal level and the state level as well. And the hopes of Rhino Removal Project is to push past 2026, because the rhinoism within this country is not only federal level, but absolutely within Texas and the state level and the state house and Senate and all that. So the state chapter leads are the people that are ultimately responsible for their own district or their own state, federally and state level. So the expansion is gigantic, the potential. We just need the support, and we need the correct candidates.
Yeah, absolutely. How bad is that problem at the state level?
Well, so let's see how I'm going to explain this. It's really difficult to energize the base. And what I'm going to implore is, when Trump won the 2024 election, and I do feel there is some people that have maybe taken their foot off the gas pedal a little bit. They're like, okay, we're done. But no, this is the time that we have to continue, because I do remember Trump's, and I'm sure a majority of your listeners do know what happened during Trump's first presidency, where he had the good solid 2 years. And then unfortunately, the rhinos didn't back him enough, and we lost the chambers. So I think this will be the most important midterms of probably our lifetime. So energizing our base and getting the word out, people that are within RRP, if you're on X or other platforms, just giving a share of our content or joining up. Those are a few things people can do out there. Visiting our website, no matter which, you don't have to be the most grandiose influencer on social media to join a part of a movement, a grassroots movement. where we're trying to make impactful change within this country.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take another commercial break, Steve. When we come back, I think we're looking at my favorite RINO, Bill Cassidy. And we'll be right back with Steve Darbon, the president of the RINO Removal Project, folks. Go check it out.
Morning, you had a pretty succinct statement in the wake of your vote. You say, I voted to convict President Trump because he is guilty. Why do you think he's guilty? When did you make up your mind?
So I listened very carefully to all the arguments, but if you describe insurrection as I did, as an attempt to prevent the peaceful transfer of power, we can see the president for 2 months after the election promoting that the election was stolen. People still tell me they think Dominion rigged those machines with Hugo Chavez from Venezuela. That is not true, and all the news organizations that promoted that have retracted. He then scheduled the rally for January the 6th, just when the transfer of power was to take place, and he brought together a crowd, but a portion of that was transformed into a mob. And when they went into the Capitol, it was clear that he wished that lawmakers be intimidated. And even after he knew there was violence taking place, he continued to basically sanction the mob being there. And not until later did he actually ask them to leave. All of that points to a motive and a method, and that is wrong. He should be held accountable.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Truth Thursday, and we're telling the truth today. Share this episode when you see it. Get people to watch it. Get all your Republican friends to watch this episode. It's critically important that people get educated and get reminded, because the American voter has extremely short memory and short attention span. And that's just a fact. I'm not being critical of anybody. I'm just stating the facts. And that's the environment we have to operate in. That was Bill Cassidy explaining why he voted to convict Donald J. Trump on the largest sham impeachment effort, the one on the fake insurrection. The man, I have been trying to keep him out of the U.S. Senate, ran against him when he first ran forward in 2014, but the Mitch McConnell National Republican Senatorial Committee did everything they could to specifically target me to keep me from getting in that seat, because they know that I was an America First candidate. I ran on the same policies that Donald Trump won on a year later. But the problem is, folks, their message machine has the ability to convince you and major players that endorsed him in that race, which is why he's still in office, and donors to go with that guy. And that guy just tried to stop Secretary Kennedy from being confirmed. He eventually voted for him, which is what he'll say in his reelection run, folks. But he's a liar. He didn't want to vote for him. He did not want to vote for him because he's in the pocket of Big Pharma, number one, and the man just isn't that smart. And yeah, this is my show, so I'm going to say it, and I'm not going to allow him to come on my show and even answer it, because he's got the megaphone. He's got the millions of dollars. Just last fall, I was in a room with the three biggest donors of Louisiana, And a week later, and they were backing J.D. Vance, and a week later, they raised $5 million for Bill Cassidy. That's the level of effort that you have to overcome. And we've got to continue to overcome it, even though the guy's finishing his second term. He needs to be booted the hell out of the United States Senate. And my guest today is the president of the Rhino Removal Project, Steve Darbin, U.S. Army veteran. And Steve, I get a little excited about this, not about him individually, but when I think about, and look, even today, this week, I got a text message from somebody saying, please run against this guy again, from over in Louisiana. And I've moved to Mississippi 2 years ago. So even to this day, once or twice a month at least, I get text messages from my old supporters and voters over in Louisiana that go, please run against this guy again. So some voters saw the message, about 210,000 of them in 2014 when we did that. But most of the Republicans bought into the lies, and now the whole country's paying the price, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you brought up that January 6th interview, because that just kind of encapsulates what the short-term memory within the voters or the conservative movement. And it's very important to bring those things back up, because like you stated, whenever he goes up for re-election, he is going to state that, oh, I voted for RFK for Donald Trump's appointments, or he's going to kind of not even discuss January 6th accusations against President Trump. And we know Donald Trump was charged, I think it was close to 100 felonies or 100 charges, and everything has been dropped because they understand it was an absolute hoax and a witch hunt against President Trump. So I'm really, really, really glad that you brought that up. And additionally, Cassidy voted so many times for funding of Ukraine and the military industrial complex. And a lot of these anti-America first portions on our website, Bill Cassidy has a RINO scores of 50, which that tells me he's not good. So I'm originally from Louisiana, Rob, from south of Lafayette. So I moved to Texas in 2016 because I do understand Louisiana politics, and it's a lot of the good old boy system with people knowing people. And it's not only just political, it's even like work contracts, word of mouth. And I do understand how Louisiana kind of operates. How do you feel about Dr. John Fleming?
I'm not going to announce who I'm supporting in that race yet.
Okay, fair enough.
But we can talk offline about Dr. John Fleming. But you said you have a state contact in Louisiana already?
We do, and I forgot the name offhand. I apologize for that.
Oh, you don't have to announce their name on there. Just make sure. I just want folks to be reminded again in each of these segments, you have a state director of the Rhino Removal Project, and I'm assuming you can go to, what's your website again, Steve?
RhinoRemovalProject.org.
You can go to the website and find a way to get in touch with those folks, so
Absolutely.
you can find out what's going on, because it's very important. It's very important that seemingly non-Rhino people that are running for office also be identified, because a lot of these folks will say, I'm America first and all that, but then they won't vote for America first policies, because what it means to be America first sometimes isn't the most conservative fiscal decision. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's being America first. Some of them say, I'm America first because I'm for a strong national defense, but they're the same people like Bill Cassidy and John Cornyn and our next target we're going to talk about, who's the worst, that will vote for every war. And I'm not talking about just voting for Ukraine, where in theory there aren't Americans involved in that, but there are American boots on the ground in Ukraine. Don't be fooled by the lies, folks. They're there. They've been there for a long time. And we're just very fortunate we haven't had anybody injured or killed yet. But they'll vote for that, and they'll say, well, that's America first. Well, no. And I'll give you an example. This operation that President Trump just did in Iran. Here's how that's America first. It's America first because President Trump's been saying for I don't know how many years that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. So has every other president before him since the late 70s, and Kamala Harris. None of them have really truly done anything about it. Okay. But President Trump has also said that he's against the endless war policies and no new wars. He wants to be known as the president of peace. So there's so the warmongers and the true America first people immediately come into conflict over the leading up to him actually pulling the trigger and taking the action that he took on this in the public sphere. I was asking the questions, why America? Why do we have to do it? And why now? What's the true threat to us? And saying, hey, that's what the questions the president needs to ask before he does it. I'm assuming that he got those answers that he needed to make this decision because he pulled the trigger on this operation. But at the same time, the night after the strike, Lindsey Graham, night before last, was on the floor of the U.S. Senate. What was he doing? For hours, advocating for the United States to go in, boots on the ground, to do a regime change war in Iran at the same time. And that's the kind of votes that Bill Cassidy loves to do and say, well, that's America first. No, the America first approach is if we have to use force, we do it. We get it done overwhelmingly. And then we reset the table basically and reestablish deterrence. That's what Donald Trump is trying to do, is reestablish conventional deterrence and actually establish for the first time nuclear deterrence over Iran. Very difficult to do. It's been decades, like we said. So that's the difference, and people get confused about that. And some of these politicians that are career politicians, they're going to try to say that I'm a Tea Party guy. I helped start the Freedom Caucus, but you need to really go look at what their voting record was and really take a really hard look at whether they support Donald Trump's policies truly or not, truly support those policies. Because now Donald Trump has said just yesterday, there will be no regime change war in Iran. I will not support that. And he wouldn't even answer the question yesterday, are you going to give more money to Ukraine? He said, well, we might find some patriots, but we just had the largest patriot engagement, according to General Kane, in the briefing this morning, ever. I don't know if he said the number of missiles they fired, but it was a lot of them. And those are not very, the inventory is not very populated. Let's just put it that way, in that missile. And the Ukrainians specifically asked at the NATO summit day before yesterday for more Patriot missiles. But that's not an America first approach. We need our troops. If our troops are going to be deployed to Al Udeid Air Base, we got to reload those Patriot batteries right now, because you can't trust the Iranians. That's America first, not giving all our crap and all our money to a place like Ukraine where you're throwing it down a rabbit hole, really, and there's really no strategic vital national interest for the country. So you're going to have people, and it's going to come out in this race in Louisiana. You will have people that are going to try to say, oh, I'm a Tea Party guy. I helped found the Freedom Caucus and all that. But they spent $20,000 against an America First candidate named Rob Maness to keep him out of office. So you got to be very, very, very careful about that. We got to take another break, Steve, before we get to our last segment. Next one, the warmonger of all warmongers, Lindsey Graham. He ought to be ashamed of himself. He's an Air Force officer. He's a lawyer in the Air Force, full colonel, and he likes to see blood spilled, especially American blood spilled, and that's not America first. We'll be right back with Steve Darbun, president of the RINO Removal Project.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Would you like to gain access to over 20 years of my radio shows, TV shows, my books? I've written 15 books, and most of those books are ebooks now, and we have conference DVDs, conferences where we filmed our conferences at the Ozarks, literally starting 20 years ago. It's all available in our archived vault. All you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and for a reasonable monthly fee, you gain access to over 20 years of Christian worldview programming, news, information, books, documentaries, and a powerful search engine. And folks, it's a great way not only to educate yourself, equip yourself, but it's a big way that you can help fund our continuation as a broadcast network. Please check it out. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and help us continue pushing out a Christian worldview.
Talk to the Trump supporters for a minute. I don't know who you are, and I don't know why you like this guy. I think what you like about him, he appears to be strong when the rest of us are weak. He's a very successful businessman, and he's going to make everything great. He's going to take all the problems of the world and put them in a box and make your life better. That's what he's selling. Here's what you're buying. He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. He doesn't represent my party. He doesn't represent the values that the men and women who wear the uniform are fighting for. I've been in the Air Force for 33 years. I retired this June. He's the ISIL Man of the Year, by the way. He just got back from Iraq a week ago this Monday.
I know. We interviewed you live from there. You were with Senator John McCain, and you were going into Iraq to get a status report. What were they saying there about all of this?
The military leadership and the diplomatic corps. Now, we have young men and women in harm's way all over the world, particularly in the Mideast. They were concerned about this rhetoric because the enemy will use it against us. So what was a concern last week has to be DEFCON 4 this week. Because what Mr. Trump is doing, and I don't think he has a clue about anything, he's just trying to get his numbers up and get the biggest reaction he can. He's putting our soldiers and diplomats at risk. He's empowering the enemy. And this ban, if it's actually enacted, would take people who have been interpreters, who came to our side in Iraq and Afghanistan, who are under siege in their own countries, and basically becomes a death sentence for them.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Truth Thursday, and we're talking about the rhino removal project and the top 3 lead rhinos on the top of the rhino removal project's target list today. And that's number 3 right there. Although I put him up there at number 1 as warmongers, man. I tell you what. I'm dead serious. He likes to see American kids' blood spilled based on everything he does and says. That's not my opinion. Go look at the facts. You just heard it right there. The man is crazy. Donald Trump just achieved peace. The 12-day war is over. He just ended the war between Iran and Israel. Now, that could fail, but it hasn't. The ceasefire's holding. They haven't fired on us again. He ended that war, and we're going to see good things come out of that. But Lindsey Graham, by his philosophy, was advocating on the floor of the Senate for 2 hours the other night. 2 hours for America to put kids in the deserts and mountains of Iran and do a takedown of that regime, when we all know that dog don't hunt. It just won't work. The Iranian people need to rise up. They have a soft and arrogant force keeping control of that country, and they could rise up and spill their own blood to win their freedom again and reestablish some type of democracy that works for them. That's not a United States responsibility, and it can't be done by the United States. It's only got to be done by them, but Lindsey Graham wants you to do that. He doesn't support Donald Trump. We got to get him out. My guest today is Steve Darbon, U.S. Army veteran, Iraq and Afghanistan combat veteran, and he knows the score on this guy, and he's the president of the Rhino Removal Project. Steve, what are you guys looking at in South Carolina, if anything yet?
He is a 47 on Rhino scores. And what I'm really glad you played that specific clip, how he stated verbatim, Donald Trump does not represent my party instead of our party. That kind of shows you what kind of person this guy is. And serving overseas for 2 years in combat and understanding what the military industrial complex is all about. Lindsey Graham, I despise the guy because there is no war that Lindsey Graham does not love. He visited Ukraine several times. He's just stated he went to Iraq on that clip. There's so many he goes overseas and instead of achieving diplomacy, which I believe is more America first, diplomacy instead of sending troops on ground and trying to use the CIA or any of these other organizations to do regime changes. No, that's not the way. And you were spot on stating that the Iranians themselves, if they want to change their government, they need to do it. And that is what America first is, not sacrificing our soldiers overseas for these endless wars. So Donald Trump dropped, I believe, 11 300,000-pound bombs, like gigantic bombs. But this is peace through strength. And this is what he's always talked about. And the other ones that are complaining that, oh, Donald Trump is attacking Iran, he's the first president to actually do something about it. And he's the person that actually, okay, look, yes, we do have an issue with Iran and their nuclear capabilities. So let's solve the problem now. And it's done. Instead of dragging people on into endless wars and creating more problems in the process.
Yeah, and I'll also point out that the Democrats in New York City just nominated an Islamist communist to be their nominee for the mayor's race there just yesterday. Its policies, it's weak immigration policies, uncontrolled immigration policies that have led the Islamic population in New York City to go from 100,000 in the 1980s to 2 million today. And Lindsey Graham supported all those policies. Lindsey Graham was talking about making light of the threat to us here and trying to make a big deal out of the so-called Muslim travel ban, which was a travel ban from countries that tend to and have proven to create Islamic terrorists. It wasn't a ban on Muslims themselves. Right. Not all Muslims hate America or want to kill you and me. But 90% of them are Islamists, and they do. So Lindsey was trying to make it about bigotry and all that stuff, just like a Democrat. That proves right there that he's not really a Republican, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And we just see this time and time again with him, where he's promoting some pro war or trying to create these narratives that are false, just like the Democrats do. And there's no, in my opinion, there's no difference between a RINO and a Democrat. They're just uniparty scumbags or globalist warmongering. That's not America first. And going overseas and serving 2 tours, I had a different opinion back then because maybe I didn't understand how this country really operated and how much money was being shoved to these politicians via like Raytheon or Boeing or Northrop Grumman or even Big Pharma, and how much money is being shoved to these representatives of our country. Now, so I don't hold it against myself whenever I went serve overseas because I had the good intentions behind it. And a lot of veterans right now, they do have issues with coming back and understanding what the military industrial complex is really all about. And they kind of have some sort of guilt behind it. But I just want to address to all veterans out there that have served and that do understand how the military industrial complex operates now. You can't hold that against yourself, especially if you had good intentions to want to bring peace abroad or, serving the will of the people that were actually in those countries. So I just want to point out to you guys, the veterans, the prior service guys, don't hold that against yourself, especially if you had the best of intentions behind it.
Yeah. Look, I served for over 32 years of my life, from age 17 until almost 50 years old, and in several wars and everything. And some of them were righteous. The whole thing in Panama, the Grenada thing, that was all righteous, especially when you look at what the new strategy is, hemispheric defense, as part of the America First strategy, national security strategy that President Trump's implementing. It's part of it's a hemispheric defense. So those were righteous. They were, the facts were clear on those things. But we have been involved in other things where I have fought in those wars, and really like the Iraq thing and the not the beginning of the Afghanistan war, but after 2005 when we stayed there and tried to do this crazy nation building mission, which never works. Right. Also, and I look back on it and I go, man, well, I think I might have been fooled by the MIC and the Intel, national security state combined and those kind of things a little bit, but I'm not going to feel bad for signing up to serve my country. My ancestors go all the way back to the American Revolution, and so does my wife's, where we volunteered to fight for our independence and our country and those kind of things. Just like I don't feel bad that some of my ancestors fought on the blue side and a bunch of them fought on the gray side right. in that 1860s unpleasantness. I don't feel bad about that, and I honor all their service. And our veterans should not feel guilty about that. When you raise your right hand, you're not expected, and nor should you expect yourself to understand the complexities of the things that we know now. I mean, shoot, this stuff may have been happening since 1963. Who knows? But we haven't really been able to see it until very, very recently, right, Steve?
Absolutely. And I give Donald Trump a lot of credit for that, because whenever he walked down the escalator in 2015 and he started talking about the fake news and how that really kind of started building momentum. And I believe once President Trump started with the whole fake news agenda, a lot of people started looking into, okay, so what are they really telling us? And then that was the rise of independent journalists and podcasters and things like that. And I think a lot more people nowadays are more privy to information, and they really understand, like you were stating, the complexities of these wars and how people want to throw their own personal agendas behind things. And it's good. We still do have a lot more work to do for the truth. And the press conference this morning with Pete Hegseth, I'm sure you caught it, but it was pretty epic.
Yeah, it was epic. And I have to give a shout out to General Raisin Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, U.S. Air Force General, for highlighting that the Air Force Weapons School, our version of Top Gun, we don't play volleyball, skins and shirts and football on the beach and everything there. We take our warfighting much more seriously than that. That's a long time little service rivalry. Ever since the movie came out when I was a first lieutenant aviator, and we got robbed because we got Iron Eagle, which was a weak movie, and the Navy got Top Gun. So anyway, that was an epic thing. But in all seriousness, extremely important to show and for President Trump's policies of peace through strength, establishing and reestablishing deterrence, both conventional and nuclear, is extremely important. As we were on this show, the Communist Chinese Party, for the first time, has put an aircraft carrier battle group east and south of the second island chain. So that's where the real threat is. And that's an America First policy, is to establish our strength there and deter them so that we don't ever get into a war. And if you're following politicians, you got to look at that very, very carefully, Steve. I got about 30 seconds left. Tell folks where they can donate to you, because this takes money, right?
Absolutely.
And you don't have to have more money than the other guys, but you got to have enough, and you need a lot.
Absolutely. You guys can check out www.rhinoremovalproject.org. The website is really clean, really crisp. I'm sure you guys would really enjoy it. And you can understand what the Rhino Removal Project, what our objectives are, and our kind of strategy behind it. We are growing, and we're growing fast. So if you guys do want to join the movement itself, there's a sheet that you can sign up for, and one of the executives within the Rhino Removal Project will reach out directly to you.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for doing what you're doing. We support you, and we will all be in this fight together, shoulder to shoulder. I'll see you after next week, folks. It's the 4th of July, 249th anniversary of our independence. Our enemies are still trying to take our independence away from us, and they're right here. We're rolling up Iranian terrorists right here in my home state, and in the state right next door to me, an Iranian sniper was rolled up just yesterday. So be armed lawfully, keep your head on a swivel, Be ready to defend your country and yourselves. I'll see you in a week.